So South Africa's BioVac Institute will produce 100 million COVID-19 doses a year at least under license from Pfizer and BioNTech. However, that deal does not cover drug substance production, which Pfizer and BioNTech will do at their own facilities in Europe. So the big question we're asking this morning is, what is actually preventing African countries from developing their own vaccine manufacturing capabilities? To help us answer this and many other issues, let's bring in Patrick Tapu, who's the Head of Science and Innovation at BioVac, joining us now via our video link. Patrick, great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for making time to chat to us here on the AM report. Let's perhaps begin by understanding what the practicalities around this deal actually are. We're told in the value or supply chain, what we'll be doing essentially is the full and finish stages. What does that mean?
Good morning. Yes, so what fill and finish means is that, as you mentioned, there's the drug substance production side of the manufacture, and then there's the drug product side of the manufacture. And basically what that means is that the drug substance is the active ingredient, the API in pharmaceutical industry terms. The drug product is when you take that API and you begin to formulate it into a product which can be administered. So the full finish operations include formulation, filling that bulk formulation into little vials. Those little vials get labeled and packaged and then distributed. So that's the full finish side of things.
So essentially, in other words, even if there were to, for argument's sake, be another contamination in some plant in Europe, that would affect the ability for us to be able to still go ahead and meet these 100 million doses target a year that's been set.
Yes, that's correct.
Sure.
Because we would be dependent on the supply of the drug substance from the European plant.
The question then becomes, obviously, why can't we make our own substance production here at home? What's the lag about? Is it a lack of collaboration, lack of investment, combination of the two?
It's a combination of many factors. The ones that you've mentioned now, collaboration, and that's technology transfer, etc. But I think that one also needs to appreciate the fact that in order to enter into technology transfer deals, one needs to build up the competence, the capability to absorb technology. And this needs to take place in a sequence structured way. It doesn't happen overnight. Vaccine manufacture is a set of complex activities, and this capacity needs to be built over time. So I think one of the factors is the infrastructure. You need to have the proper infrastructure on the ground. And if you don't have that infrastructure on the ground, it could take between 2 and 3 years to establish it. You need to have the workforce ready and raring to go, and that takes a while to develop as well. So when you turn to this deal that BioVac and Pfizer have struck, you will note that there is a period of time before which product will become available, and that's part of the ramping up. And I think that this is a long conversation and depends on how deep you want to dive into it. But it's infrastructure, investment, well before the time that positions you to be ready for these opportunities.
And I guess the question then becomes, why does it appear that we hadn't started in time? And I guess this is the kind of question that would predate the COVID-19 pandemic, doesn't it? Because we've only been dealing with this particular global health crisis for just over a year or so. The sense I'm getting from you is we should have at least preempted a context where we might deal with the global health crisis, and that would have better placed us to be able to actually manufacture our own vaccines. Is that right?
Correct. So to provide some context background, this is not a situation where, for the first time now that we're confronted with this pandemic, that this issue has been tabled. There have been many voices over many years advocating for the need, particularly in Africa, for this local capacity for vaccine production to be established. And I think that, it's like an insurance policy. While everything is hunky-dory, no one thinks that, a burglar is going to come and break in, or we're going to have a flood or whatever. The moment that happens, you think, maybe I should have had an insurance cover. And I think that what COVID-19 has done in particular is shifted the focus and converged a number of stakeholders to focus on this issue of capacity building in Africa, realizing firsthand the impact of what happens when we don't have it in place.
I imagine, though, that there are certain things that could work to our advantage, and by us I'm referring to the continent Africa. I mean, COVID-19 is not the first ailment, if you like, to grip large parts of our communities. I'm thinking about HIV and AIDS, Ebola in parts of Africa. What kind of, I guess, unique advantages does that give us in our ability to organize to respond to something like a global health crisis?
Well, as you can well imagine, there are many facets to being able to respond to these challenges, these emergency disease outbreak situations. There is the R&D component to it, developing products, developing interventions. There is the manufacturing component to it. And before manufacturing, there's the testing, the clinical trials that need to be done. And then after manufacturing, once one has the product in hand, you need to look at the programmatic side of it. How do you get these products out in the field to the point of need? So there's a whole 360-degree view that one has to take in order to gear oneself up. So when we look at what AIDS and HIV/AIDS and other disease outbreaks, like even Ebola has taught us, is that it's focused a lot on the programmatic side of things, the procurement of product and how to get it out there. What we are turning towards now with respect to vaccine production is the upstream part with respect to development and manufacture, because that is the greatest enabler of security of supply. If you develop something yourself, you make it yourself, you know that you have it.
Great insights. Thanks very much indeed for your time this morning. Really do appreciate your chatting to us. Patrick Tapu is the Head of Science and Innovation at BioVac. Once again, Patrick, thanks very much indeed.